Hey, everybody. David here with Red Pill News. We're going to discuss some shocking revelations with the 2020 election that has just came out. It's all speculative, but it would make a lot of sense. I have guest Don Keith back. How you doing today, Don?
I'm doing great, brother. Thank you for having me back, man.
Great to see you as
Great to
always.
see you, buddy.
We'll go ahead and hop straight in here. So this story just came out. The controversial Milwaukee election director, her name is Claire Woodall-Vogue. She personally attacked the Gateway Pundit. But the big thing about this story, she was just terminated from her job, and she had allegedly lost 169,000 votes on a thumb drive. She later found them later in the night, but that's just the first thing she did. Even the worst thing than that, allegedly, is that at 3 a.m. she didn't finish counting these votes. She waited as late as possible until after everything was shut down. And then here's what one of the persons working with her wrote in an email. Damn, Claire, you have a flair for drama, delivering just the margin needed at 3 a.m. I bet you had those votes counted at midnight and just wanted to keep the world waiting. Isn't that crazy, man?
Well, what's even crazier is the fact that she printed out 64,000 ballots and had employees on the fourth, fifth, and sixth floors filling out those ballots to get them all in by 3 a.m. So if this graph, I see you have the graph. You remember Trump, and then Joe Biden, straight line, Joe Biden. That was those 64,000 ballots they were all filling out that they brought in at the last minute. So it's unbelievable. But
yeah,
we've seen similar instances to a lesser degree in other states, right? People don't really talk about. You never hear about the Michigan votes being for the 6,000 votes in Michigan that were flipped from Democrat or Republican to Democrat. That same technology was used in 30 states and all of the major swing states that mattered. But you don't hear about it.
Yeah, let's say allegedly, so we don't, upset big tech.
Well, no, the 6,000 ballots that were flipped, that was factual. That's been verified. Yeah,
okay.
That's not conspiracy coup.
Well, who broke the multiple? I remember hearing about that. Who broke the multiple floors? She had the people filling out the 64,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was her. It was Claire Woodall. Yeah.
Okay.
And she's one of the government officials who had her employees on 3 different floors filling out those 64,000 ballots from the report. This is what's being reported. And then she delivered, and there's an email. I think you have the email that was written to her, this is just astounding to me, where someone actually kind of alludes to the fact that she managed to get just the right amount of ballots in and at just the right time so that Joe Biden would beat Donald Trump.
Yeah, just the margin of victory. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recall that it was her that it had those employees counting. I couldn't remember if it was a reporter that had a inside whistleblower or not. But if these allegations are true, I mean,
she's been fired. She's been fired.
Yeah,
because of this. So now I don't know what Wisconsin's going to do. I don't know what the state legislators are going to do. I don't know. I posted a video recently. I don't know if you saw it, but to me, the people who should be most ashamed about all of this, the stuff we're seeing. I know you're going to talk about Georgia. We're seeing the stuff in Georgia. We're seeing the stuff in Wisconsin come to light now. But to me, the people who should be most ashamed about all this is the state legislators, right? Because they had their opportunity.
Absolutely.
And they cowered away from it because, to them, it's a popularity contest. They want to be popular. They want to be media darlings. And they know that if they even mention the words election fraud, then they're not going to get that spotlight. They're going to be labeled the conspiracy kooks, right? Because you're told, election fraud. He's one of those election deniers. So, and they all cowered away from it. None of them, and the courts did the same thing. The judges did the same thing. None of them would even hear the cases because they said the plaintiffs lacked standing. Remember that? So
you're spot on.
The state is deep. The swamp is deep, man. So I don't know what these people are going to do. But now this stuff's coming to light, they really need to to shed more light on it in every state. And so these state legislators should be doing some investigations and
Yeah.
bringing all the potential fraud in all the states to light.
You're absolutely correct. It's the federal politicians are the worst about caring what the corporate media thinks, that they're not going to like Republicans regardless. I mean, maybe they'll occasionally praise Lindsey Graham when he calls for war in another third world country, but other than that, who are they trying to win with the media? You're right. They're afraid to call it out, but hopefully some of these local politicians and state politicians can bring this up.
We
But
got to
just
think about
look
who
at
owns the media too, right? Who owns the media? BlackRock, State Street Global,
right. That's
Vanguard,
true.
right? They own the media, and they own pretty much 80% of the stock market. So, not saying that that's what it is, but you got to just think about
Yeah,
corporate
no,
America, and you got to think about their donor base and who they need to please and all that good stuff. So,
yeah. Well,
it's all speculative, of course.
yeah. I mean, well, now that the creator economy has exploded, it's like just thousands of creators replacing the corporate media. It's good to see their ratings dying, but I'm afraid X will get banned after if Biden, gets reelection. That's a whole nother topic, but you're right. They are completely afraid. Okay, here is what's happening in Georgia. Georgia Election Board dumbfounded after finding out that 3,000 ballots were scanned twice in the 2020 election recount. The board also revealed that 380,000 ballots, roughly, in the machine count was not available. So we'll watch this video here and look at some of this questioning. We'll enlarge it here. Let's see. I'll put us. Let's try putting us up here. Yeah, let's do that.
Does the investigation confirm that there are missing ballot images?
Yes.
Yes. Do you know why 380,761 ballot images from Election Day machine count are not available?
We subpoenaed Fulton County for all of their ballot images. We received approximately 518,000 ballot images.
From Election Day?
Those are for the recount.
Those are from the recount, but we have no ballot images for 380,761 ballots from Election Day, correct?
What was subpoenaed was the ballot images for the recount, because that's what this case was about, not the election day.
Does Fulton County know why there are not 380,761 ballot images from Election Day?
As with the investigators, we have not been apprised of this allegation. This is the first time hearing about it. I have no idea what the basis of that allegation is, and so we would have to. We can't answer that at this time.
Can't answer
Would
this.
Fulton County agree that every
This is
vote
what's
should have
baffling to me, right? They have no answer for it. And the general counsel for the Secretary of State's office, her name is Charlene McGowan. She actually confirmed that Fulton County, she said Fulton County used improper procedures during the recent recount of the 2020 presidential election. She said they actually broke the law, and yet the Georgia Election Board has refused to do any further investigations. So that's kind of par for the course. That's what's been happening. And we hear about these bits and pieces for the last 3 years, and in the back of your mind, you're going,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I heard this and I heard this. Why aren't the legislators doing it? Why aren't Republicans in Congress I don't understand. It's baffling to me that they're not going to investigate this any further to get to the bottom of, like, this lady just stood up at the end. So, I don't know, but they're
Yeah. I just wonder who's blackmailed. I mean, I have two competing thoughts thinking about Speaker Johnson. He used to have the most MAGA voting record in Congress.
What
But
happened?
now he's completely different. And one could argue it's because he couldn't pass. He'd literally have to shut down the government, you wouldn't be able to pass anything because the Democrats would all like filibuster. Although the filibuster's not in that House, but in the Senate. But he's completely different, man. You're right. These people are not answering a single question.
Yeah, he's been he's a swamp creature now. He's one of the biggest swamp creatures out there. He's part of the war machine. The military industrial complex got a hold of him, man. So, in my opinion, I don't know what's going on with
Yeah.
Johnson. He's definitely not MAGA anymore.
No, we got to get rid of lobbying. I mean, that would be hard to pass, but the lobbyists just have Congress by the balls.
Yeah, getting rid of lobbying or lobbyists is probably going to be about as hard as getting rid of term limits. if not
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
So that power, man, they crave that power. They have to have it. So it's sad but true.
They do. That's, Lincoln warned about that power corrupting people.
Mm-hmm.
So this is from the state of Michigan. Michigan sheriff's investigation revealed, and I'm going to say again, allegedly, that the voting machines or the CEO directed his staff to conceal that Dominion has Serbian and Chinese employees operating out of its Canadian office, and that these employees are directly involved in U.S. elections. I repeat, foreign actors have administrative access, allegedly, to the machines of our elections and are conducted on. And here's the quote from this. It looks like this letter. Not only was access granted to U.S. election equipment in real time during the election, but detected by the U.S. government through Albert sensors was subverted by use of soft phones. Yeah, this is this goes to the Honorable. This is the letter's titled to the Honorable Jim Jordan in the House, and I guess there's a second page. I don't see who signed it, but it clearly is Berry County Sheriff's Office. Oh yeah, Sheriff
Darleaf, yeah,
Darleaf.
he's great. I love Darleaf. But this is another example of the kind of things we've been hearing since 2020. Those of us who have always been labeled the conspiracy nuts, we've been hearing about all of these elections and the fact that Dominion was tied in to the internet when they said they weren't going to be. And we heard about places in Germany being raided. Do you remember hearing about the Dominion voting machine location being raided in Germany, and apparently this location was supposed to be manipulating votes, and then that kind of just went away and you heard nothing else about it, right?
I did hear that. I didn't see any.
Probably could be conspiracy, but then a lot of this, as we're seeing now with Wisconsin and Georgia, and we've already seen Michigan,
Right.
There was some election, let's just say, irregularities. Okay.
Yeah.
So and that can't. But it's not just simply the fraud that's the problem. It's the fact that the state legislatures were usurped by judges, mayors,
Absolutely.
city councils to make election law when the Constitution clearly gives only the state legislatures the ability to make those election laws. And I think probably the ballot harvesting, because using COVID as the guise, I think the ballot harvesting and ballot collection was probably more as if not more damaging than the election fraud. And so I see that Governor Kemp's making some progress here. As much as I don't like Kemp, I appreciate what he's doing here in Georgia. They're actually doing something to protect their election integrity. But this is what all states need to do to prevent this same ballot harvesting. I don't know if you've seen 2,000 Mules or not, where they use the GPS locators to determine how many thousands of ballots one or two people were actually, bringing to these ballot drop-off boxes. But it looks like what Kemp's doing in Georgia is going to help protect the state of Georgia, at least, from some of that.
Yeah, we'll hop over to those bills in just a moment, but yeah, it's outrageous. You're right. Clearly, like Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, presidential elections, the time and manner shall be determined by the legislature.
That's right.
And they completely ignored that in Michigan. They completely ignored that in Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia. It's the constitutional rights they're just completely ignoring it. But I think the local
that to me, that was enough to not certify your elections and the state legislatures.
Yeah.
They didn't have to certify them, but they certified them anyway because they were scared. They were scared of the media. All right. They didn't want to be called the conspiracy kooks, like I said before. So it's really, to me, that they should be most ashamed. And you know, they get these state legislatures, they gave us Joe Biden. They gave us the America that we see today, the disastrous Biden presidency, the two wars we have right now, Gaza, Ukraine, everyday Americans, the hardships we're seeing, illegal immigration, flooding the border, inflation at what, 9% now, so groceries doubling 50, eggs 150%. So all of these things that are harming energy policy, give me a break, which is responsible for a lot of this, right? So the state legislatures are solely, in my opinion, responsible for that.
No, absolutely.
Because they were cowards.
It's disgusting because they're supposed to be the most, they're supposed to be closer to us, represented us well. Well, look at this comment from Mark Robert. It's telling when Georgia election officials will do nothing about the elections when they know there's something wrong that comes to light, vote them out, voter ID for citizens only. Yeah, absolutely, Mark. We agree with that sentiment. And we're going to talk about right now what Kemp has signed into law, 3 election integrity bills. And hopefully we'll see this in the swing states because that's where it matters the most, in more swing states. Election fraudster Mark Elias is pissed. I'm not sure who that is, but that's funny. House Bill 947.
Mark Elias.
Okay. Who is that?
I'm not really real familiar with Elias. He jumps in a lot on this stuff with the elections, though.
Okay, probably one of the paid talking heads from the regime.
Mm-hmm. I believe Elias is an attorney, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, House Bill, because there's another thing that came out recently that the Biden administration is paying a lot of influencers, and it's a Federal Trade Commission violation because they're not disclosing that they're paid. They've been doing that on TikTok, and it recently is a huge thing. But House Bill 974, you want to explain these? You may have read these a bit more.
Yeah,
I can, either
974 adds the watermarks to ballot. It displays the ballot pictures online, requires more audits of statewide election, and uses technology to verify the accuracy of the text on the ballots. And you've got House Bill 1207 that requires election workers to be U.S. Requires election workers to be U.S. citizens. We got to spell that out, right? Got to spell it out for everybody because that's not common sense. It allows fewer voting machines on election days and guarantees poll watchers close access and allows candidates to proof ballots for errors. Now, the thing about this, it guarantees poll watchers close access. Well, they were supposed to be allowed close access before that. And you remember these election officials who were running these polling or these tabulating places were running the poll watchers out, right?
Right.
And you remember in Atlanta, we had the multiple caught on video scanning multiple ballots, had
boarded up the window.
After what we were told was a sewer line ruptured, we found out was just basically a leaky pipe in a bathroom, but they used an excuse to escort everyone out of the building. And then all of these cases came out from under a table, which has been apparently that's been debunked. We're told, but how do we know that? You know, it's baffling.
No, it's insane. And they gaslighted us the whole time of like, oh, mail-in ballots is super secure. You know, they're so normal. Well, twice the number of mail ballots were used in 2020 than any other previous election, more than 200%.
Well,
go ahead.
What about the fact that there were more people who voted than were on the registered voter rolls, right? How do you have more people voting than you have people?
Yeah, it makes no sense, man. It's and Democrats are just like, you're just being a conspiracy theorist, but literally, so the American Legal Foundation had to sue for this to come out. America First Legal, they're great. They sued Biden's DHS, specifically the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which, by the way, they're like the heart. They've been described as the nerve center of censorship online. They've like reached out to these social media companies and told them to take stuff down, or as they say, told them about encourage. They didn't like say you have to, but they are.
Well, I mean,
anyways,
Dave, have you seen, if you go back to pre-2020, as late as 2016, or I think even 2018, you could see reports on CNN, ABC, that and the Democrats all hated the Dominion voting system and the voting, the machine voting, all of that stuff. You can go back and you can look and see all these Democrats hated it until they were able to do whatever they did to win the 2020 election.
Funny how it changed, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this document we're looking at here is from the CISA, the Cyber Infrastructure. It's from the Department of Homeland Security. They admit.
It's the Cyber and Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Yeah.
They are admitting that there are enhanced risks with mail voting. Well, they admitted it internally. It had to be sued for them to come out and say this. But they say implementation of mail voting infrastructure and processes within a compressed timeline will introduce a new risk. For mail voting, some of the risk under control of election officials during in-person moves to outside entities such as ballot printers, mail processing facilities, and USPS. Integrity attacks on voter registration data and systems represents a comparatively higher risk in mail-in voting environment when compared to an in-person environment. The outbound and inbound processes and tabulation take longer than in third person, causing the results to be more slowly. More disinformation risk for mail-in voting. So they knew.
Well, you mentioned CISA, right? The cyber and infrastructure security agencies.
Mm-hmm.
What about the fact that we now have the documents obtained by a guy named Yehuda Miller, who filed a FOIA request to get these documents that showed a secret meeting that took place back in November of 2020 between CISA and it involves government agencies, the FBI, leftist political groups. All these officials, not Republicans, not conservatives, not Trump people, but all Democrats and the deep state and leftists who met with CISA and Dominion, Dominion. So what were they meeting about? Why was this a secret meeting?
That's wild. I didn't know about that. I knew they trained.
No, listen, November 3rd, 2020, Dominion met with CISA, the FBI, and the Democrats, or the Democrat operatives. There was a secret meeting, and nobody knows what it was about. And this was an actual meeting. This was obtained from actual documents from a guy named Yehuda Miller, who actually filed a FOIA request to get these documents. And this is all
Wow.
pretty recent information that this has come to light. So
Wow.
I mean, it's so obvious. I mean, really. But you don't hear any of this in the mainstream media. You only hear it in the independent media,
Right?
From, real journalists.
The corporate media is bought and sold. But I do know that they.
Sure.
Yeah, I do know they trained for a year. They trained the safety team at Twitter, the old team before it was under Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
They trained people at Meta, their employees. They're like something.
Zuckerbucks, right?
Well, there's that, but they also said there's something big that's going to be classic Russian disinformation that's going to come out.
Well, that was the Hunter Biden laptop.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They had special meetings for a year to train for that.
They went ahead and prefaced it to prepare Americans for the fact that Hunter Biden laptop wasn't a real thing. It was Russian and then we have, was it 20 or 50 actually, who was it? It was, high up the chain government officials. Oh, Brennan and Clapper and all these guys who signed off saying that it was Russian disinformation, right?
Yeah.
Saying
Such a
that laptop was
disgrace.
Russian disinformation.
Such a disgrace. The 5 presidents before Trump 10 wars, 0 charges. Trump, 0 charges, or 0 wars, 78 charges. And that all ties into why they wanted to keep him out. But this lawsuit, honestly, that the Trump campaign filed, I'm glad they filed it. I think it's too late. It should have been filed sooner.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I can understand that he's literally been caught up in like 5 court cases, which, by the way, are failing like crazy, as you know.
Mhm.
But this would be nice. Demands a ban on counting mail-in ballots after election day.
Well, you know what it's he's being proactive right now, but why isn't everyone? I mean, I see Georgia's doing something at least. What I'm not hearing anything from these other states about what they're doing to protect their election integrity.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you really should just be the Republicans in Congress should be pounding the tables every day about this.
Absolutely.
About this and the fact that they're interfering with the election because of these bogus Trump cases, right?
Absolutely.
It's very rare you hear any of them discussing it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I was listening to a election integrity attorney that's been doing it for like 20 years. I forgot which podcast I saw him on, but anyway, he said judges do not want to change the outcome of political races. It's like something that drastic. They naturally want to make the least impactful decision. They don't feel like it's their role to change the outcome of it, even if there was, unfortunately cheating.
Mhm.
But so instead, he said the strategy is if you're filing the election lawsuit on November 6th, the day after the election, it's most likely not going to work. You got to file just floods of lawsuits before election day to make sure things turn out on election day how you want, instead of trying to fix it after the fact.
Well, the problem with that is that was the old Department of Justice policy too, right? They didn't want to interfere with elections either. You remember everything with Hillary; they didn't want to pursue that.
Right.
But now they're willing to do any and everything they can, including Biden weaponizing his DOJ and other entities to go after his number one number one opponent with 91 different. This is like a guy Donald Trump is 77 years old, never been charged or convicted with a crime his entire life. And they've got 91 charges against him, right? And these are the criminal charges, not to mention the New York state legislature changed their statute of limitations on rape so, right? Because with their old law, E. Jean Carroll could have never brought her case for Trump, right? This is how diabolical and incestuous the whole thing is, right? The state legislature changed their laws for the specific purpose of E. Jean Carroll being able to bring that case against Trump, right?
And they made it retroactive too. Like, you don't make laws retroactive.
Yeah. And that just goes to show you what kind of jury pool Trump has to work with here. It wasn't a jury pool in that case, of course. That was a judge who made that decision for himself. But it just goes to show you the level of the mentality of the people in New York. But I think to a degree it's changing. I don't think it's going to change enough. I don't know that Trump can win New York. I would love to see that.
Nice.
But the crazy liberals are all in Los Angeles and New York, man, and it's got to be tough if you're a conservative in New York.
Yeah, I saw a photo recently. 51% of all Americans want mass deportation, and it's only a handful of the bluest states that disfavor, or the majority of them disfavor mass deportation. So I think Governor Abbott's strategy.
Those are all the ones that like to wear the leather gimp suit and have daddy spank them.
Yeah.
They just love the pain that illegal immigration brings to the country.
Yeah. So currently, I've got to switch screens again. 19 U.S. states allow the counting of mail-in ballots received after Election Day. The law claims they're allowed more votes to participate, although they are commonly used as a way of giving Democratic operatives enough time to find the necessary votes to ensure Election Day or election victory. let's see. Yeah, so many irregularities, so much. And here's another thing Congress is doing too. If audience, y'all haven't heard about this, Democrats voted unanimously to give illegal immigrants representation in Congress and in the Electoral College. Now, this is the way the bill is. It might sound a little confusing, but essentially, the Equal Representation Act, all Republicans voted for it, all Democrats voted against. It would require the U.S. citizenship question. Democrats claim that it would violate the 14th Amendment to require a U.S. citizen or require the Electoral College to only count U.S. citizens. And I don't know how in the world the U.S. Supreme Court agreed with that, but they did. So now it's going to fall on Congress to pass this. And in the Senate, I think right now it's 51 Democrats, 49 Republicans, but it did pass the House. But this just goes to show you every Democrat wanted this to happen. They want
to change Congress, right? Because they know now that they can be counted in the census, so the representation in all these and all these states is going to be greater because obviously the more people you have in the state, the more representatives you have. So it's going to not only is it going to affect Congress, but it's also going to affect us. There was the replacement theory. That was just another conspiracy, right? But if you look at the Western world right now, you see illegal immigration all over. If you look at the Netherlands, I think the Netherlands is about more than 70% illegal immigrants there. They've been taken over. They've been replaced. Sweden has been replaced. It's the majority of their population is now illegal immigrants. This is happening all over the world in the West. People are coming from war-torn third world areas, and they're killing the civilized Western world is what they're doing. They're just destroying our values, everything about our prosperity. They're turning peaceful nations into what will become war-torn. Because if you look at the areas where they're from, war-torn, they can never get along, right? If you look at especially in the Islamic countries, they're always at war with each other. Sunni versus Sharia, this country versus that country on that border. They're always at war. So makes me feel a little bit like the war machine may be getting involved to make a little more money, right? They can't make any money off these peaceful Western countries. So let's just turn them all into war-torn areas by importing the war-torn people and their ideologies into in the West. Let's turn them loose into the West, and eventually we can turn the war machine loose in the West.
Yeah, absolutely.
Baffling.
It is baffling. Senator Dick Durbin introduced a bill that would give illegal immigrants citizenship. And I'm not talking just like green card holders. I'm talking about people with no paperwork. If they jump straight into the military, they'll get citizenship because they're looking for bodies for World War III is what it sounds like to me. And you're right. They're destroying Europe. And it's the liberal single white women. It's not the married women. It's the single women that just disproportionately vote for Democrat policies. If you look at the map of the United States of if it were all men voting, like every state would be red except Oregon and maybe I think it was maybe Washington State. It's only like 2 states that would be blue. If you looked at a map of all of the married women how they voted, it's like 75% red, 25% blue. If you look at how single women vote, it's like 47 states would be blue and 3 states would be red. So the feminism movement is tied into like how they're voting, and the graphs show women are moving further left at a greater rate than men are moving further right, although men are starting to move further right.
It's I tell you, I was in London recently with my friend Tommy Robinson. We toured really the entire United Kingdom. We went through London, we went to Scotland, we went to Wales. They're having problems everywhere there. And I actually went to Tommy's hometown, and we were actually in traffic in Luton, which used to be predominantly white Christian. It's now basically all Muslim. and we were in traffic there, and I said, Tommy, because Tommy's well known in the UK. I said, what would happen right now if our car broke down? If you had to get out and get? He said, oh, we would be in trouble right now. We'd be in big trouble. He said, if we get caught in traffic here, somebody recognizes me in this car, we're going to be in big trouble. But that's kind of how in a lot of Europe, especially in and around London, that they've transformed it, man. If you look at what Sadiq Khan has done there, he is obliterating London. London is no longer London. They've taken it from the Christians.
Yeah.
And they're just having to deal with it, man. It's really sad. And the liberals there are probably worse than the liberals here, because they aren't doing anything about it. And in fact, they go, I don't know how much you follow Tommy, but they go after him for nothing, for absolutely nothing. They go after him for playing a movie, and then they tell him he can't report on. They actually arrested this guy just for doing his job as a journalist at an anti-Semitism rally where he was there just to report. He was sitting there eating breakfast, and they came and arrested him, told him he had to leave. And he said, well, I'm doing my job. Well, he actually won that court case. They pepper sprayed the guy for nothing. They had like 15 cops, had him cuffed, 15 cops, and then pepper sprayed him in the face for no reason. But that's how much the tables have turned there. Even the cops seem to be against white Christians in the London area. It's really,
man.
it's sad.
It is sad, and I want to know, how much longer is it going to be before the Muslims start demanding Sharia law, and then all of the liberals who want to live like wild lifestyles, they're going to be like, wait a minute, you're not being tolerant. Oh, you voted for this. You get it.
Mhm.
This is what you wanted. So if you're having to wear I guess they call it a burqa, the women,
Mhm.
liberal white women, it's like, okay,
Mhm.
you're the one that asked for this. But it is really sad. I've heard that there's a lot of no-go zones, and the beautiful.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're already, and let's be honest, they themselves within their communities, they're already living by Sharia law. But what they want to do is push it on a national level, right?
Mm.
And there was here in Texas a few years ago, they were pushing for Sharia law in some community. I can't remember what. I believe it was Texas a few years ago here. But yeah, if for in the future, 20, 30, 40 years from now, this immigration continues and they happen to get a foothold in Congress where they're the majority, then we could very easily be looking at something like Sharia law.
We could. I want to address this comment.
80% of the Muslim world wants Sharia law. That's a fact. There was a survey
Wow.
done, big survey. I can't remember who did the actual survey, but even the so-called peaceful Muslims want 80% of the world's Muslim population wants Sharia law.
The liberals are about to have a surprise Pikachu face when they find out what the culture they're allowing.
Oh, I just love what I really love at these Free Palestine rallies is the LGBTQ holding up the sign. Trans for Palestine. Yeah, somebody want to tell them? Somebody should tell them something about that.
Right. So we got Papa Lad. He says, if they're coming from war-torn third world countries, why do they have luggage, brand new clothes, and fully charged cell phones? Well, the U.S. government is paying for it, and the immigrants that the U.S. is receiving, most of them are from Latin America, and a lot of them are Catholic. They're not quite as culturally incompatible as the European migrants, but they're still culturally incompatible. They don't. A lot of them will never learn English. So
they're unassimilable, is what they are. They don't want to assimilate. They hate America.
Yeah.
They're coming here to live off either the dole or whatever opportunity they can get. Refugee status is supposed to come when you're from a war-torn area or you're fearing persecution. It doesn't include economic, prosperity reasons, right? That's not why you're supposed to grant refugee status, but that's the way this Biden administration, they don't look at it that way. They let them, any and everyone, in through the border. So not to mention the fact that they're almost all military age males, right?
Yeah. Where's the families at? Governor, I forgot, the Iowa governor, I forgot her name, Kim Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
She just passed a law, and she said she's going to defy the Biden administration. She will arrest illegals who were on the deport list. It doesn't include all illegals, unfortunately, but at least she's going to arrest some of them. And I think 16 or 17 other states are going to do that. And that's what's going to happen is the legitimacy rest in the states. I mean, we're really a republic of 50 republics, each state being its own republic. And we need these state legislatures to pass these laws that say we're going to protect our sovereignty from foreign invaders. And then when you have that type of legitimacy, the state standing up to the federal government, then something will be done.
Well, we've always got a convention of states. That's kind of our emergency
That's
switch
true.
if nothing else works. So I can tell you though, if they do something and Trump does not get elected, we're in real trouble, man. We're in real trouble. I don't know how we get out of this with legislation. I just don't.
Yeah, not on the federal level anyways.
Mm-mm.
Let's hop over to the polls, some of the polling data. So which poll was I just looking at? This is interactive. I wanted to look at this most recent. Let's see. So this poll, this is from Polymarket. They have Trump up in, this was, the 538 average this year versus, okay, they're reporting the 538 average. That's a different polling entity, but they're comparing now versus 2020. Now Trump is up 0.7 nationally, according to them. Biden was up 5.4 in 2020. Trump in Pennsylvania is up 1.5 compared to 5.4 in 2020. Trump's up 1.5 in Wisconsin. Virtually, these are all the same. Trump is up in every state where Biden was leading, and Trump's lead has gained tremendously in Georgia. And that's an 8.5 point swing there in Michigan in 4 years. 7 point swing down in Texas. Texas is interesting. I mean, if they, you would think they'd go super red because even despite the illegal immigrants, what I've read is people who move to Texas are actually more red than the natives there.
Well, there's also a purposeful effort because Texas used to be deep red, but it's purple now because there's a purposeful exit. There's not just people fleeing California because they hate California. There's people fleeing into Texas to purposely turn it blue, right?
Yeah.
So they're getting closer and closer to doing that. If you look at the last election that Ted Cruz was involved in, he didn't win that election like he would have if it had been 4 years previous to that. It was much closer than it should have been. I think was it Beto O'Rourke the last election with Ted Cruz?
It was close. He's up for election again, I think.
Closer, and Beto O'Rourke is a terrible candidate too.
Horrible.
He was still close to Ted Cruz.
Yeah, the thing that I'll give Democrats credit for, their advocacy organizations, they're super aggressive. They apply for money on because you can get money from the policy side if you're apolitical. They apply for like government grant money, but even the political ones are super aggressive at fundraising from private donors, and they seem to do a lot more than the RNCs ever did. But I'm hopeful Laura Trump, and because she's the co-chair, I'm struggling to remember the other co-chair's name. But Ronna McDaniel was trash. She was the worst.
Well, she's a Romney. That's not explained at all.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
But if our election machine were as cohesive as the Democrats, all right, and even if our politicians were as cohesive as the Democrats, we would smoke them every time because our ideas are so much better. Their ideas are terrible, right? But they stick together. And that a lot can be said about sticking together. We fall apart, and we're mad at this guy's mad at this guy on the Republican side for whatever. It's true. It's ridiculous. The Democrats stick together no matter what.
Yeah, it's the beauty and the weakness of the Republican Party is that we are independent thinkers, but the downside of that is we're not a hive mind when it comes to voting.
Yeah.
Let's see.
True,
I'm looking for this map here. I'm going to bring up this map. and share screen again. So this is the state's percentage of your state's population that thinks the U.S. should start mass deportation. And then someone had commented, yeah, Cat's Paul, I see your comment here. You're right. Trump said he would institute the largest deportation program in history. Yeah, he said he's okay with using the U.S. military if necessary because there's an old law that prevents presidents from deploying the military on U.S. citizens.
Comitatus, you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, but he said it doesn't count because they're not U.S. citizens, which is true.
That's unless he declares an invasion and or martial law, something to that extreme. I don't know that that'll ever happen, and just begins deporting them no matter what Supreme Court or whatever says. I mean, Biden's not listening to the Supreme Court. Why should Trump, right?
Well, I mean, Obama deported, it was either 1 or 3 million, which is surprising. I guess
Obama deported a lot. He sure did.
I guess they shifted strategies.
A lot more than Biden.
Definitely not enough. But yeah, there's the few states. It's
Obama also built those cages, right? That they accused Trump of building.
Right. I identify as West Virginia. They're 93%. They want 93% of them want the mass deportation to happen.
About the same amount who voted for Trump too in the last election. It was like 93 or 95% West Virginia.
Yeah,
Trump.
It's amazing. I'm going to pull up one more.
Patriots.
This is the 270 to win. I'm not sure where they're getting their data from. This might be a collection of polls, but let's see. We'll look at how calculation works in a minute. Right now, it looks like Trump is ahead by about 9 points in the Electoral College in terms of solid states that are most solid. The toss-ups they're showing are Wisconsin. Let's see, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. I think Georgia is no longer a toss-up. I would put that in the light red. I think Nevada is probably also light red. Yeah, these toss-ups are looking really good for Trump.
I think the really top secret number here is how many people in the United States are afflicted with mental illness. Right? Yeah. If there's that many people who still want to vote for this old bag of bones, Joe Biden, and these policies that are in our country, there is a huge mental health crisis in this country that needs to be addressed. How can anybody see what's happened in the last 3 years and vote for this guy and his policies? It's unbelievable to me.
I agree. I see people defending the economy, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? I mean, if it's one thing, if you're a wealthy boomer, you were responsible, you have a great retirement. Okay, that's nice. But can you not see that there's retired people that are like 70 having to go back to work because their Social Security check is not keeping up with inflation? And they're just trying to ignore that. It really is mental illness. The fact that they would ignore these clear signs. But we'll look at this one last poll here and wrap up. This is the Real Clear polling average. I love this poll, or this average, because it collects like 20 different polls and says what they say collectively, averages them. So nationally, Trump is up 1.2%. This was as of yesterday, final result. Now in 2020, Biden was up 4.5 at this time. Clinton was up 6.5. And let's see, in Texas, Trump is up 9.3, 9 in Florida, 5.4 in North Carolina, 5 in Arizona. Love to see that. Up 4.5% in Nevada. Love to see
the swing states.
Yeah. Georgia, 3.8. I think it's going to be more than that. We'll see. I don't know what's with Pennsylvania. I think that's actually probably his weakest swing state from what I've seen. That in Wisconsin. Although Michigan, the no confidence vote from the Arab community in the primaries against Biden, like I think 100,000 people said no, not listed or something because they're
Mhm.
mad of what's happening.
Yeah,
So
it was,
this
it
is
was huge. It was a huge number. Huge number.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. So that's great news. You know, out of all the things that happened in 2020, I do think Georgia is heading in the right direction. There's this whole new generation of politicians that are starting to come in and they see the problems from the outside. So I'm encouraged about that. And
Mhm.
I think it's going to be too big to rig for Trump for 2024.
Yeah,
I believe so.
my son's he's a millennial. He says all the millennial guys are Trumpers now. That's what he's telling me. So
Yeah, it's
that's good
great to
news.
see
That's good news.
yeah, it is. Cause I mean, leftism has nothing to offer to young men. It says you're toxic. It says that you're not wanted by
Mhm.
society.
Yeah,
It's been horrible for
yeah,
men.
yeah. It's been terrible. Yeah,
But
they've demonized us
yeah.
for sure.
Well, Trump 24. Hey, everybody, if you enjoy this, hit that thumbs up button. We will be back for more. You can follow Don at Real Don Keith on X, and you can search for is it the
The real
Real
beef
Beef
with Don Keefe on Facebook.
on Facebook? All right. We will catch y'all soon. Have a good one. God bless
Well,
everybody.
2024. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Good to have you.
See you, buddy.